Don't forget to like and follow, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We need you to like and subscribe our channel so we can keep making the podcast.
We need to make a podcast.
We
We
need
need
to
a
make a
book.
podcast.
We need to go get the book of podcast. All right.
Welcome to the Don't Panic podcast. I'm joined here with my wonderful main host. I'm the co-host. My name is Jed. That is Mish.
What? We're here.
He's a Mish on a leash, and
Jed in the shed.
Jed in the shed, not the sharpest tool. But yeah, let's get right into it. So the latest drama that I have been seeing, at least on political TikTok, are conservatives going rabid over the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline.
Oh yeah, man. They're taking you fucking taking jobs, man. You're out here stealing thousands upon thousands of jobs by stopping the Keystone XL pipeline, despite the fact that it breaks a bunch of native treaties. It's environmentally unsound. It's continuing to purport a defunct and obsolete form of energy that we just why it's expensive, it's dumb, it's probably going to leak. It probably already leaked at least once in the last 13 years.
So since it we were fighting against its construction back in 2018 when it was going through native land, and I think basically we lost that, and they ended up building it. And before it was even completed, it had like more than a few dozen major spills.
Yeah,
which pipelines just do. They're not exactly technologically sound pieces of equipment, and they're not the best way. They're the most efficient way in when it comes to volume of transporting crude oil, rather than by like train and stuff like that. But it is not, in fact, a particularly great piece of technology.
Yeah, actually, as I'm looking online, I found this thing called NRDC.org.
Natural Resources Defense Council.
Yes. Oh, that's why I know them. They're a real thing. Oh, wow. Anyway. No, I thought that was just something made up for like How I Met Your Mother. I watched that show when I was in college, and fucking
don't admit that.
Hey, listen, fucking what's his name? The guy that plays Barney,
Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris, man, he's a tour de force of a performer. He's got all he kept me coming to that show all the time. Also, the girl from Buffy, she was really funny.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, Marshall, Jason something's character, can't remember his name, but he's in Philly doing a thing with Andre 3000 right now, or was last year. But yeah, he was a lawyer and he wanted to work for the NRDC, and I was just like, that's not a real thing. They made that up. Apparently, it's real. But so I'm looking. Anyway, I'm looking on their fucking little overview of the Keystone XL pipeline, and in a section called "Leaks in the Pipeline," they link to one study that found between 2007 and 2010 pipelines moving tar sands oil in Midwestern states spilled 3 times more per mile than the U.S. national average for pipelines carrying conventional crude. So on average, it seems like they're already a dirtier version. Like it's just set in stone that these things kind of suck. So why are we so adamant about building this goddamn thing? Or at least one section of the country was.
I mean, it's the same idea as to why there are sections of the country and politicians saying, they're getting rid of your coal jobs, they're getting rid of your mining jobs. It's areas of the country that are still locked in, the entire part of their industry there is supporting a dying industry. That's what the jobs are that are available in that area. It's
Mhm.
like my family has a vacation home in upstate New York, and it's
Okay.
in the mountains. It's a very small, poor town, and a
Hmm.
lot of people there are out of work because it was all mining work up there in the mountains.
Yeah.
And then what's been happening recently is oil companies have been purchasing large plots of land and paying people, in their eyes, humongous sums of money. Not as
Mhm.
much as you would think, but if you're poor, $50 to $100,000 is a lot of money,
Yeah.
or more than that. But purchasing their land for pennies on the dollar to frack, and it's creating fracking jobs as well in those areas. So,
Gotcha.
what we're looking at is right now, oil is the standard for our energy, but it's also the standard for a lot of things in the sense that tar is made from oil, plastic is made from oil. We have huge, roadways they're made with tar in most places instead of cement because it's more malleable, it doesn't crack, it can change. Like it can stay basically the same throughout like major seasons in
Yeah.
comparison to cement. Um, so we have, unfortunately, a large portion of our infrastructure built on oil.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to energy, it is a dying industry.
Hmm.
So, I mean, what it is it's specifically a section of the country that's crying out because they're taking their jobs.
Right.
But
Well, I mean, they're being told that their jobs are being taken as opposed to an alternative means of moving everybody forward in a way that takes public funding and pushes it towards retraining, re-education, and then restructuring around a new economic, sort of or economic, a new sort of chain of production. Like
mhm,
we could easily take. I mean, dude, fucking screwing a screwdriver in and swinging a hammer, um, is probably the same regardless of what you're working on. So, you know, if you can learn how to use tools to apply to mining, you can then learn how to use those same tools to apply to, fucking, I don't know, building pieces of wind turbines and
yeah,
solar energy panels and shit. Like, dude, you like, do you really just want to like hang out underground inhaling fucking mine fumes all the time? My dude, you could be out, outside and
on a
also
wind farm, my guy.
be on a wind farm, dude. You just
Yeah.
like climb up the wind turbine, give that the giant bolts and shit a twist, and then all of a sudden you're good.
Yeah. I mean, there is some merit to the argument that, as industries transition to newer technologies or replaceable technologies, some jobs aren't going to transfer.
Oh
Like
yeah,
in like the auto manufacturing industry, when we switched to mostly automation and building, a lot of the jobs that were, hand tighten, crank this, punch that, didn't carry over. A
yeah,
lot of the supervisory jobs and more sort of tech based you know oversight jobs were created, but they're not always in the same specific mold. Um, so when we transfer away from oil in regards to energy, there are going to be jobs lost that won't be held, but the
oh yeah,
narrative still that they're pushing doesn't hold.
yeah.
In the sense that the argument that's being made right now is that 80,000 to a couple 100,000 jobs were lost.
Hmm.
But TEC, the company that manufactures the pipeline, released a report after the cancellation that said, "Look, what happened was we lost 1,100 temporary jobs
Right.
that were not filled. So there was 1,100 unfilled jobs, only a few hundred filled jobs, and
Yeah.
35 permanent. And those temporary jobs are in the construction of the pipeline. And then
Hmm.
the 35 permanent are into sort of oversight, regulation, and maintenance."
Right.
Um, So construction jobs, when it comes to pipeline, yeah, that's absolutely something that can be transferred over
Hmm.
to other forms of energy if we're building large wind farms, building large solar farms. You know, I don't think we should be building more nuclear, but based on the amount of energy produced versus amount of energy consumed, the
Hmm.
U.S. could be entirely energy independent on nuclear and renewables.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because nuclear is actually more efficient and better energy producing than anything. It's better than renewables. We have an idea that renewables are better because of the nature of what they come from,
Yeah.
and because disposal when it comes to nuclear is still a little iffy. It's made great strides since
Hmm.
nuclear was introduced. Like we look at things like this is gonna sound silly, but you look at the Simpsons and like their meltdowns, but that was all based on what we knew of nuclear and the tech from when the Simpsons began, which was like in the 90s.
Yeah.
In the 2020s, nuclear is at the point where it's like 99% safe, even when it comes to disposal.
Hmm.
There are things that can happen. We had Fukushima
Yeah.
back in like 2015, 2016, I think, or maybe even earlier than that. So obviously there are issues that can happen, but nuclear has become a pretty reliable standard um, for energy. When it comes
Yeah.
to replacing other things like infrastructure wise, like our majority of plastic based roads, I mean, there's a way to create roads that are cheaper and last longer and require less maintenance to them
Hmm.
out of recycled plastics. And there are a couple places that have done this. Um, and it would
Really
allow us it would allow us to sort of slowly transition away from oils if we're using the plastics, regardless.
nice.
So there are ways to go. The problem, obviously the major problem here is that the oil industry just has so much lobbying power,
Yeah.
and it's such a major part of the U.S. economy and infrastructure that it's very very hard to transition away.
Hmm. Yeah, it's almost impossible just because they've got so many little avenues to be like, yeah, but guys, you're taking our jobs. But
Yeah,
like, hey, we're just gonna quickly fund Prager University and sow seeds of misinformation and disinformation so that people vote against their interests. It's great. Love it.
yeah, and there was a really great movie to be watched that really shows the kind of power that the oil industry has, and it's Who Killed the Electric Car, because we were at a point. Um, so the When you think of electric cars and you think of viable electric vehicles, you think probably around like 2010 and after, right? Is when we developed the technology to have energy independent vehicles
Yeah.
um, that weren't hybrid and didn't require gas.
Right.
But what this documentary shows is that we actually had the technology for this in the 90s, and it was basically assaulted and destroyed um, by the oil industry.
Really.
Yeah, we
And
had the technology to have full on electric vehicles, but basically they created a marketing campaign. They lobbied funding away from it. All these things, like smear campaigns about how, the electric vehicle is unsustainable. Blah blah blah. Like I mean, you've seen some of the dumb.
it's gonna electrocute your baby. It doesn't sound as cool. It's like, if you get an electric car, your dick is small. You
Yeah,
know.
well, that's actually a really big part. There's a reason why we have that sort of that stigma when it comes to vehicles of like, oh well, Priuses are for pussies, right? And like, Ford tough, blah blah blah. That's actually propaganda against energy efficient vehicles, um, because they put they instill a stigma of a subconscious belief among consumers that the best vehicles and the most manly vehicles are the big, most gas consuming ones.
Hmm.
That's why it's
That's
like, well, men drive trucks. Like, trucks
right.
are actually really unstable vehicles. They're not safe,
No.
and they're not like these off-road things you think they are. Um, because yeah, they have great hauling components and they are very useful. Like pickup trucks are very useful for the people that use them, but there's this sort of substantiated belief that they're more than what they are.
Right.
Um, Example right here: four-wheel drive is not superior to all-wheel drive, and they are separate things.
What is the difference?
So There are starting
Because
here.
hold on, wait, real quick, because
Yes,
most cars have four wheels,
yes,
right? And if you drive with all
yes.
four wheels, you're driving with all wheels. So what does this mean? I don't understand.
So they are two different things. So starting at the very core of it, right? There are two major kind of like platforms for vehicles. Okay, there's a unibody,
Okay,
right, which is like car, SUV. Everything is a single tangible piece, right? It's
gotcha.
one big piece.
Right.
Then uh, then there's the non-unibodies, which are like truck bodies, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Which
Okay.
is actually two pieces put together with a bar underneath. Okay,
Hmm.
so that way, if trucks are going over off-roady things, right, they can go like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like here, let me show it to the camera, right? So if you have your truck bed right here and your truck cabin, right, and you're
Right.
going on some rocks and some roads, or you need to haul things, it
Yeah.
can go like that,
Hmm.
right?
Gotcha.
But that also means since it's two separate pieces, you don't have congruency between acceleration in the front and acceleration in the back. So in between the two pieces is this small thing called a transfer case,
Okay.
right? And so the best way to put it is all-wheel drive is all wheels all the time,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
Four-wheel drive is front wheels and back wheels together at the same time. So it's like A is over here and then A and B is over here.
It feels like you just said the same thing twice. And
It's
kind of
not.
saying they're different things.
Just imagine, all right, it's it's one person running with his two legs, right?
Uh-huh.
And then four-wheel drive is conjoined twins, where each one has a leg, and then they're walking, in unison. But it's conjoined twins, each with one leg.
Okay. So essentially, they both have independent control of each leg, or
But the
separate.
transfer case is like the shared brain matter that allows them to do it together, but it's programmed together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. This is where I learn about drives. Many wheels.
All-wheel drive, all wheels all the time. Four-wheel drive, four wheels independent at the same time, front and back.
That's still very confusing, but I think I get it. Anyway,
Yeah, but
but
because of that, because of that,
mhm,
there can be inconsistencies because vehicles are a complex piece of technology. There can
right,
be inconsistencies between the wheels
right.
with trucks. So four-wheel drive is all-wheel drive is superior to four-wheel drive when it comes to what you think of what they are meant for, which is driving in conditions
Mm,
that are not ideal, unideal conditions.
right. Okay.
Also, trucks are not that safe
No.
because they have such a high center of gravity.
Hmm.
They're prone to flipping,
Oh shit.
and they're just not built in a way that's particularly safe because they're not a unibody, right?
Hmm.
But rounding back here to the main point, because of this propagandist marketing,
Hmm.
trucks are viewed as these huge, manly, burly vehicles that can smash other vehicles out of the way and they're safe and they're off road and blah, blah, blah. In
Right.
reality, the safest vehicle that you can drive right now, and since because large vehicles have been on the road for so long with these higher bumpers, is actually just like an all wheel drive family size sedan.
Really.
Yes,
Huh.
because they are now built defensively in a way that the defense factor is they like people who manufacture cars like sedans understand that cars are going to be getting into accidents with SUVs and trucks at
Hmm.
times, right? Because there's so many SUVs and trucks on the road. So you can't have a scenario where oh well this car is only meant to crash into other cars. Doesn't
Hmm.
the circumstances wouldn't allow for that.
Right.
So they're now built in a way that they can withstand impact with larger vehicles.
Gotcha.
So vehicle shapes, which have changed recently, and where the majority of the strength is in the vehicles, is meant to actually deflect higher bumpers.
Huh.
That's why hoods crumple. Like you think, oh, that car looks destroyed.
Right.
What it means is it transferred all the impact of the vehicles crashing to the cabin and not to the passengers in the cabin. If
Yeah.
a vehicle looks like it hasn't really been hurt in a major crash, it means the people inside are probably fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. So if the car is all fucked
It's
up, then
about
it's like,
kinetic energy. Yeah.
yeah, the car has done its job and taken the fucking brunt of the hit.
Yeah. It's like
Nice.
punching a punching bag that has like, what it's meant to have in it, right? Which is
Mhm.
like feathers, sand, whatever, or punching one that's made out of cement.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're punching one made out of cement, you might just be Bruce Lee. So
Yeah.
then it explodes.
Yeah.
But fuck. So
Yeah,
because rounding back real quick. So throughout all this, we've got this fake idea of these cars being super masculine destroy mobiles
Yes.
that can do anything and will tear. If it weren't for the limits that humankind put on these massive god destruction machines, they would be tearing through the roads, all higgledy-piggledy, knocking fucking Escalades off the interstate.
The 2021 Chevrolet Silverado is an affront to God.
Have you ever woken up and chosen violence? This might be the car for you.
Yeah, exactly. So,
And
and again, you keep thinking about how they make money doing this, right?
mhm.
Rubber is a product of oil, right?
Right.
Larger wheels on these vehicles cost way more.
Yep.
Performance level costs way more, which means it has a certain kind of grip, blah, blah, blah. There is some merit to all this,
Yeah.
but the amount of markup on these products is solely because we believe that they must cost more.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I drive a car that is a quote unquote sports car with quote unquote, sports suspension that requires quote unquote sports tires, right?
Right.
Which cost a certain amount more than basic tires, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have your all-season truck off-road large vehicles. I have 18-inch wheels. The
Mhm.
larger wheel you go on vehicles, the more the tires cost, even though there isn't a corresponding increase in cost to produce of those tires.
Okay.
So, example, my tires cost about $150 a tire, right?
Right.
And a high performance all season off road tire for like a 24-inch truck is like 400 or 500 a tire.
But it doesn't cost any more to make them.
It costs more, but not that much more.
Right. Like
But the idea is they can add this markup. They add markup to luxury brand tires too. Like
Yeah.
Pirelli is a well-known luxury brand tire that's put on like Audis and BMWs and stuff, right?
Right.
But it's manufactured by Goodyear,
Right.
which is a general brand of tire that you can buy for a quarter of the price.
Yeah. So could you get essentially the same tire, just Goodyear? And
Pretty much, yeah.
And it wouldn't.
But the idea is you get Pirellis. Same idea like with like Asian brands. Like an Asian brand that I like is Kumho or Sumitomo, right? Which are both Japanese brands. And they are also manufactured by the same manufacturer that builds Hankook tires. Right?
Okay.
Hankook tires are like 150% of the cost of those other brands.
Mm.
Because they're the tire that go on to like Lexus.
Yeah.
And like Acura and like sport like racing cars,
Yeah, but it's the same. They're still made by the same people who are selling you, the tires on your Daewoo.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I don't know, man. I don't know cars. They're the same tires on your as on your Hyundai.
Yeah, Hyundai.
Hyundai. Uh,
Hyundai.
no, man, fucking artificial markups. That's just capitalism, bro. They just love that.
Yeah.
Hey, man, listen. Hey, do you want insulin? Do you want to fight your diabetes? $300. But if you go over
Diabetes.
to diabetes, but if you go over to like Canada, you get that same shit for like $8.
Yeah, because you have this middleman,
Mm-hmm.
right? That they need to make a profit too.
Yep.
So the more middlemen you have, you put someone in between you and the producer of
Right.
the product, there's going to be a markup because someone in between needs to make money. And the idea of that people don't see that is like ridiculous.
Oh yeah, dude. That's the whole business model of fucking TurboTax and like H&R Block and all those things. It's like they literally
I'm
lobby.
guilty for using TurboTax.
That's fine. I mean, you don't have to be fucking guilty, dude. They like TurboTax is guilty of you using TurboTax. It's their fault because they're the ones
Yeah.
with like $1 billion lobbying campaign and going into senators and Congress and talking to the IRS like, hey, fuck you. Don't tell people exactly how much they owe. I know you know. I know you know, motherfucker. But guess what? You're not gonna tell them because I need that extra sweet middleman money of doing people's complex tax equations for them, probably doing it wrong, and just making a
Yeah.
little bit off the side because who's gonna tell them how much they owe? Not you, IRS, you stupid bitch. It's me, TurboTax. I have the power.
Yeah, and it's like to the point where, if you can't actually file with the
Yeah,
IRS,
yeah.
you have to choose one of their e-file
Mm-hmm.
subsidiaries, which is like your TurboTaxes and the
Intuit,
tax measures.
fucking.
Intuit is TurboTax, but
Oh, Intuit
yeah,
is TurboTax. Fuck me.
yeah,
Anyway,
but like, yeah, but the H&R Block and all them fucking fuckheads.
bastards. Also, I really like this new look that I got going on.
Oh yeah, the British underground fighting ring,
Yeah,
or like Matt Damon hiding from authorities.
that too. That too. I was thinking more like Teletubby.
Oh, okay. um,
Put a screen on my belly.
what I think is hilarious is that in those movies, in every single fucking like U.S. government authoritarian spy James Bondy thing, is they think that, oh, you know what the perfect disguise is? Me looking exactly like me but with a hat. They'll never know.
Bro, seriously, check this out. It's Jason Bourne.
It's Basin Jorn.
Who's that guy?
Who's that guy? Yeah, his facial structure isn't exactly the same. Yeah,
Yeah, no, dude. Like in the same with like in the Marvel movies, they're fucking what is it by the events of Age of Ultron, Captain America, Black Widow, and all of them have been involved, especially Tony fucking Stark, have all been involved in enough shit that people should across the globe should know their face. You know what I mean? And they're just like walking around the market with like their hat down, just like, oh, I'm playing. No one. I'm literally like a 6 foot tall. The Captain America, especially. I'm a 6 foot tall fucking beefcake, just walking around the streets of some random ass country, and I'm just gonna tilt my hat down. I was definitely here yesterday, punching the shit out of people, but can't see me now.
it's like Clark Kent. Glasses. Glasses.
God.
I mean, Superman is like fucking. He's like huge, right? He's like, and everyone's like, oh man, but those glasses. Superman doesn't wear glasses, so there's no way. Even though he's exactly the fucking same, Superman is like fucking like 6'6", you know, probably 270, you know.
It's kind of crazy. He has to. There are editors. There are editors at the what is it? Not is it the
Planet.
Daily Planet? I was
Daily
going to say
Planet,
the
yeah,
Daily
yeah.
Bugle. That's from Fairly Odd Parents. But the Daily Planet, like they've got a like he must have slipped up and written about Superman in a way that only Superman or someone that was there could have written details. You know what I mean?
It's like Spider-Man's photos. So Peter Parker's photos of Spider-Man,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
selfies.
They are selfies. That's definitely the original OnlyFans. But like Superman, Clark's probably writing and he's like, yeah, and then Superman heard the cries of hostage, blah 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 blah, and rose to action, and they're like, Clark, you weren't even there when we interviewed any of these fucking hostages. How do you know all this shit?
And then I mean Superman, flew into danger, and I fought Superman fought Doctor Destruction. Like, there's no way you wouldn't fuck that up. It's just like,
Yeah, no, he's definitely not that good. He couldn't be. It's impossible. He deals with too much shit. He like you wouldn't be able to effectively. Someone's gonna figure it out. Someone already knows.
Have you seen the College Humor Batman sketches?
Yes, they're wonderful.
Where Commissioner Gordon is just like, "Hey Clark," and he goes, "Yeah, oh shit." Or I think there's another one where he has like a criminal he's holding over the edge. He's like, he says something. He says something like, and blah 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 blah. Bruce Wayne. He's like, the criminal's like, "Wait, you're Bruce Wayne?" He's like, "No, Bruce Wayne's just a friend of mine." Blah blah. He's like, You're Bruce Wayne. And he goes, "Oh," and just like drops the criminal off the building.
Amazing.
Don't kill, except for all the people that I've killed.
Yeah, no, there's so many people who die. Like if you play any Batman game and you get to a certain level, every single one of those weapons is completely lethal. You run people over with the Batmobile; those guys are dead. They are dead.
It's just like this guy's just like, "Oh man, I really wish I didn't have to deal weed, but I gotta feed my family." Batman just comes out of nowhere, and just like slams him over his neck, his fucking knee. His back is broken.
Nah, I see. I don't think Batman is flying around just like drop kicking fucking bud dealers. I think that is quite.
I like to imagine that he is.
I don't want to imagine that he's doing that. Like, because all right, I there's some Batman slander I can get behind. His power is white privilege and money laundering. That's about it. He's got a lot of free time. Like his whole thing is like, oh, everyone's like, oh, dude, if you give Batman prep time, he could beat everybody. And it's like, yeah, dude, he's got literally no responsibilities. He doesn't have to do shit. So all he does is meticulously plan how to take all of his closest friends out. Like,
wait, you don't do that?
I mean, sometimes. I might have a contingency plan for you. But no, but like the man's just got tons of free time. And I'm pretty sure he could just have a space laser that shot things.
Oh.
Is
this transitioning to space laser talk?
This is transitioning to space laser talk because what in the goddamn fuck is happening? No, I mean I'm not.
What a transition!
Right, it's a great transition. Batman might have a space laser, but Marjorie Taylor Greene wouldn't believe it because Batman canonically is not Jewish. So she might have an issue with saying that Batman has space lasers. Anyway, I think Moon Knight might be someone that has a space laser in her mind. I think Moon Knight is canonically Jewish. I don't know. I'm not very up to date on which of my superheroes are of the chosen people.
Moon Knight is also Batman if Batman wasn't so serious all the time. Moon Knight is like Batman and Deadpool had a kid.
Yes, he is. Absolutely. But yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican Party. I think this is the natural progression. They accepted somebody like Trump who is super disconnected from reality, and I think that they have completely lost control of the direction in which they wanted their sort of fascist insurrection to go. And now it's just making them look absolutely fucking stupid because they've literally sat here and co-signed every single stupid dumb shit thing that Donald Trump has said, from the point of like being like, oh yeah, it was totally fine that he fucking drew on a national depiction of what's happening in a natural disaster. It's good, I'm super glad that he did fucking jump shots of paper towels to Puerto Rico. I'm it.
Yeah. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene even said during her congressional apology that she was led to believe things that weren't true. Who did that besides you, dude? You are a grown woman. Like, but before we move on to Tragic the Gathering, just wanted to finish one last point just about the pipeline stuff.
Oh
Just because I
yeah,
have
we
some
didn't.
figures here.
Oh
Just because I
yeah.
have some figures here.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about it.
So the conservatives are complaining about job loss, yada yada yada. 1,100 temporary jobs that weren't filled, that were mostly Canadian anyway. 35 permanent.
Yep.
No energy independence anyway, because this was established back when the Keystone XL pipeline was greenlit before.
Yes.
But the majority of the oil coming through is not destined for U.S. ports. Okay, it's going to be exported.
Huh.
Okay. And people are saying also, oh, well, that'll allow us to become a major part of the oil trade, which will give us like export money and blah blah blah. I'm like, no, it's still incomparable to most other places like Saudi Arabia and yada yada. It won't count. Okay, Here are the figures. They complain about job loss in the last fiscal quarter of 2020, while Trump was still president. We lost 227,000 jobs. Okay. In January, they were complaining about all this in January. It's only February 7th. So January wasn't even over when he canceled the Keystone XL pipeline. The fiscal report, the financial report for January came out, and we actually had a net gain of 49,000 jobs.
Nice.
Okay. The last thing is that Biden's energy initiative, which is not a solid plan yet, but the idea is that we are going to be transitioning away from oil in the energy sector and moving on to renewables and nuclear, right?
Yeah.
Economists and energy experts surmise that this will create more than 10 million jobs.
No shit.
Yeah.
10 million in this transfer?
Because the thing is, there will have to be building of major things. Nuclear reactors and wind farms and all those things actually require more maintenance than a pipeline do.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a wind farm might have a couple, or a sun farm might have 100 to a couple hundred employees, when a pipeline has 35 people. A pipeline that spans from Canada down into the central U.S., by the way. So
nice.
Those are just the figures I wanted to talk about. But we can move back over to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, so
those no, I was going to say those are actually some really interesting figures anyway. I mean, like fucking 10 million jobs is not anything to shake a stick at, especially with knowing that direction is at least somehow pushing us towards or has the idea that's pushing us towards a more energy efficient and less destructive form of running our infrastructures, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, even the renewables are not perfect, but the idea is that we need to get as close as we can to we need to be as unharmful to the environment as possible.
Yeah.
To at least extend the life of modern civilization. But because right now, I believe we're at a point with climate change that there's no going back.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things we can do to slow it down, or even put it in stasis. So, but yeah, that's where we are with that. But it is nice to see an administration that is actually taking an initiative on moving away from oil as a primary energy source and moving
Mhm.
toward renewables. And this is something that we were demanding back, when Barack Obama became president, and we thought that this would happen. And
Yeah.
then instead, what he did was he had the Iran deal. He made oil cheaper. He did some things, that
Mhm.
were positive. I do think that it's going to take a really long time for us to transition. Obviously, like that's not like a fucking galaxy brain point.
Yeah.
Um, so I do think that renegotiating and rejoining the Iran deal is a smart thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Um,
is.
but people are all like, "Oh, gas has gone up since it." Blah blah blah. I'm like, if you check the price per barrel, it has not changed
Hmm.
in a way that
At all.
reflects a price. It has. It always fluctuates,
Right.
but
Right.
it has not changed correspondingly in a way that reflects that the Keystone XL pipeline is raising the prices. The
Gotcha.
cancellation of raising the prices of gas. And not to mention, OPEC really is the place that does that anyway. The president doesn't really have any
No.
authority over gas prices anyway.
No.
But yeah, so Marjorie Taylor Greene, she believes that the California wildfires were started by a Jewish space laser.
Yeah, that's some wild shit. I don't know. I mean, the like I was saying before, this is kind of the trajectory of the Republican Party. They've been flirting with and full on utilizing white nationalism, conspiracy, and divisive um, bullshit essentially to
Yeah.
maintain power. And this is I think, I don't want to say it's a swan song, but this is definitely one of the more outlandish ways that the Republican Party is pushing towards their dream of fascist America.
Yeah.
Because like she's like Alex Jones. Alex Jones just got fucking elected. How did that happen? Is she gonna scream about gay frogs now? I don't like that.
That's amazing. I didn't actually know that. I'll have to look into that in a minute. But yeah, no, it's crazy. And you think, you asked the question like, well, how did someone like her get elected? Well, her opponent dropped out due to death threats, so
What the fuck?
she ran unopposed.
Where did she run?
And northwestern Georgia,
Oh.
um,
Mm.
so middle of nowhere. And her
Mhm.
district doesn't make any sense. And the idea is that most of our districts don't make sense thanks to gerrymandering. But I
Yeah.
saw a really interesting point by a member of India's government, and he said the we have far too few representatives representing too many people. And the reason why is because the number of representatives that we currently have were decided when the population was substantially smaller.
Hmm.
Uh, so what there needs to be, so in India, I believe there's about one person who represents about 150,000 people
Wow. Okay.
in India. In the U.S., there is one congressional member that represents every 750,000 people.
That is significantly a larger amount of responsibility for a single human being.
And India has a larger population than we do also.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
so the idea is that you examine it. We should have about three times as
As many representatives.
yeah. Districts should be smaller and they should be redrawn, um, so they make sense.
Yeah.
That's a whole other discussion and plan, but that is definitely something that makes sense, and that's how and why people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and like Lauren Boebert are fucking elected, or fucking Madison Cawthorn. I mean, Lauren Boebert is like, oh my god, that's ridiculous. She got elected without a high school diploma
Ugh.
and zero political experience.
Businesswoman, gun rights activist. Ugh.
Oh no, she's horrendous, and she got her GED while she was in office. And this is not me disparaging people who drop out of high school and then get their GED later. Okay, that's not what my take here. My take here is that someone of that caliber should not be holding public office without experience or knowledge.
Yeah.
because there's a certain level of knowledge of civics you should need to have to hold public office, which she didn't have as a high school dropout.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention the school that she went to did not offer civics in high school anyway. The trajectory of the people getting elected by the Republican Party are more and more like
Extremist and like just weird. She so I looked. I didn't know about Lauren Boebert.
Yeah.
But she owns a restaurant called Shooter's Grill
Yes.
in Rifle, Colorado, where the staff members are encouraged to openly carry firearms.
Yes.
Tip well, or I shoot you in the foot.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Yeah, she's horrendous.
Mm.
But so some good points is that Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Senate voted to remove her from all of her committees.
Good.
She had a tweet that was laughing at it, and it's like, imagine giving someone like me more time, more free time. What does that mean? Are you going to come up with more crazy conspiracies like in that free time? Like,
Right.
I don't really know what you're what you're saying there. It's weird. But there's a lot of calls for her to be expelled from Congress too because of her role in the January 6th riots, and
Yeah.
she supported a lot of rhetoric that was basically about bringing violence and hurting, possibly killing her peers in Congress. So
What the? That's
yeah.
I haven't read a book about politics, basics of politics in a while, but I'm pretty sure that threatening your fellow representatives is that's not how you do things. It's not how you talk with people. That
No.
doesn't sound like I don't know. That doesn't sound like she plays well with others. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna take 2 seconds. I gotta go take a tinkle.
All right, I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna transition here. And we're gonna talk about AOC and Nancy Mace. So if you haven't heard already about what's going on, during the January 6th insurrection, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has talked about how she feared for her life and she was in danger, right? Makes sense, right? That's a pretty viable stance to have when the people rushing the Capitol are they basically had plans to kill Democratic members of Congress. So that's a reasonable take to have. The new conservative narrative is that she wasn't actually in danger because she wasn't in the dome, the Capitol building. So the Capitol is a campus, and they're all connected, right? So she talked about being afraid for her life in her office, blah blah blah. Someone stole her shoes out of her office and things. So obviously people got there. But they're just like, she wasn't even in the Capitol building, right? No, her office is located in what's called the Cannon Building, where a lot of the junior members of Congress have their offices located, right? So the narrative is that she wasn't actually in danger, but she was. So there's another junior senator named Nancy Mace, who's a Republican, who has come for her on Twitter saying, I'm 2 doors down from AOC, and we were never in danger, blah, blah, blah. Like, she's just trying to make everyone look bad. This is clear pandering to her party. This is her making an about face on what she said, because during her interview after it actually happened, she was in her office with a staffer. They barricaded the doors, and there were people going up and down the hallways banging on the doors. Okay? She cried, and she feared for her life. But now she wants to do this turn to make AOC look bad because she cares more about party politics than she does about government.
Yeah. I mean, that's I'm not surprised. Like, literally,
We barricaded her doors, and then she wants to turn around and go, I'm 2 doors down from AOC, and nothing bad happened here.
Yeah,
I'm like, you were on record. You gave an interview after it happened. Like, you can't, like, I don't know why these conservatives keep thinking that they can just change the narrative when everything, we have the receipts.
Yeah.
Like, the receipt present. AOC fucking presented the receipts on Twitter, and then Nancy Mace blocked her. Which, by the way, you are not allowed to do. Which I just learned. If you are in government, you are not allowed to block the social media of another person in like Congress or whatever, because now social media is considered the public space.
Wow.
Because of modern technology, and that leads into other arguments about the First Amendment and social media, but that's for another time.
But that's really crazy. Like, that's kind of funny that she's literally now breaking the law because of the receipts.
Well, you know, Republicans don't give a fuck about that. So.
No, they don't. They're always like, we're the law and order party, and then they break the law, and they're like, they didn't break the law, and then they just change the law or ignore things.
We're the law and order party, as in we decide what it applies to.
Oh,
which is not us.
Not us. Yeah. Never. Yeah. Not me. Yeah. I will.
So, going on to our last point here, since we're at 53 minutes.
Indeed.
The law and order party.
Fuck them.
Donald J. Trump's impeachment. You know, I think it's hilarious that Dom Jamba the Dumper.
Yes.
Donald T. Dump. The Republican narrative is like, oh, you're gonna impeach him now that he's out of office. Like, petty. He's living rent free in your head in 2021. Right? I'm like, imagine if we had applied that line of reasoning to everyone who contributed to the Holocaust during the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah, they're living in your head rent free, bro. Why do you even need a trial, dog? Like, what? Dude, weren't you guys... 4 people died in Benghazi, and there was an 11-hour investigation on Hillary Clinton.
There were 33 inquiries.
33 inquiries.
Yeah. Well, which is funny, by the way, because no one ever actually pays attention to the Benghazi trial. They're like, oh, well, Benghazi, blah, 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 yada, 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 right? Did y'all read the transcripts from the trial? Did you figure out the reason why she wasn't, like, indicted?
I still don't know.
The reason why is because the Secretary of State is not responsible for that. It is the Secretary of Defense.
Interesting.
And the whole 3 a.m. phone call bullshit, right?
Yeah.
That never happened. It was a part of her campaign the first time she ran. Right? She had a campaign advertisement that talks about a 3 a.m. phone call, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone during her 2016 campaign made it a talking point that she using that advertisement she made as they were like, oh, well, she missed a 3 a.m. phone call about Benghazi, right? Which was just a joke, unsubstantiated joke that an entire party took and ran with. She never received the call. She did not ignore it. It is not her responsibility. Also, receipts time. And I can provide the receipts to anybody that asks. In the fiscal budget that was passed the previous year, the Democrats in Congress pushed for an increase of funding and staffing at embassies across the world and funding for security. Also, Benghazi was not an embassy.
Right.
Okay, let's cut that part too. It wasn't an embassy. It was like an international hub. Okay. There was a push for increased security and staffing funding, right, and defense funding for embassies across the world from the Democrats.
Right.
In the year prior, I believe 2014, right?
Okay.
Republicans amended that budget and cut all of that funding out. These same Republicans that brought all the inquiries and all this bullshit against Hillary, including Trey Gowdy, who led the investigation, was one of the people that voted to amend the budget to cut the security funding, which included Benghazi.
Wow. So, wow. It's one of those things where Republicans do something really fucked up and then they blame somebody else, or they blame something that's slightly progressive on the faults of their own actions. Like how in the 80s, Ronald Reagan did a whole bunch of tax reform shit that basically, one, he didn't increase the minimum wage and help start the whole narrative of like oh, the minimum wage is just for teenagers trying to buy video games and not for actual, people who are supporting families. But that did a whole bunch of stuff that essentially led up to the recession, a bunch of tax restructuring that led to the recession of the early 90s. But Republicans blame George H.W. Bush for increasing the minimum wage by 45 cents, which essentially says that our system broke down within 3 months because we raised the minimum wage by 45 cents, which is like fucking crazy.
Yeah, and even if you look at the last minimum wage increase in 2009, you'll see that when it comes to dollar inflation trends
Yeah.
and purchasing power in the U.S., inflation trends have been going up steadily every year since 2000. Right, that's as far back as I looked when I aggregated the data.
Yeah.
Because like 20 years, whatever. Right.
Right.
Every single year, there is an increase in inflation in the U.S. dollar. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Its lowest increase came the 3 years after the minimum wage was raised to $7.25 in 2009.
Interesting.
Because it increased the workforce's purchasing power.
Right. So
it means more commodities were purchased. When you raise the minimum wage, more commodities are purchased than they are otherwise. When you don't raise the minimum wage and you allow the cost of living to rise, the top 1% gains money, the bottom doesn't, and it creates economic stagnation.
Yeah, because people
through wealth.
Exactly, because people
you have no money, you can't afford to buy shit.
Like, exactly. If you're too poor to do anything but the necessities, you're not gonna fucking pay into anything that. Yeah, you're not gonna buy shit. You're gonna buy.
And rent and housing costs are not commodities, and they don't help because they don't create economic velocity. Because some big rich billionaire owns the company that owns the land, and he's the one making money and then keeping it.
Yeah.
It's not going into things like if you're buying products for a business, then that business has to restock those products. Housing costs are one of the few things that don't.
You can't go into the back and restock a house.
Yeah. So that's one of the few things that doesn't go into creating economic velocity and the purchase of commodities. So rent doesn't count, which means rent also doesn't need to rise when the dollar is raised. It does virtually because landlords know that you now have more money.
Right.
So there has to be a rent ceiling.
They gotta keep that shit going up because they need to keep making more money. As soon as they know that, oh, dude, your paycheck went up $7.25 to $15. I guess rent just went up. Fucking slime balls.
Yeah, rent cool because the market doesn't dictate that it needs to. So last point here. If we're talking about things living in people's head rent-free in 2021, right? Trump is no longer in my mind. I think that he should be thrown in prison, impeached, yada, yada, cannot run again. That's that, right?
Yes.
Don't give a fuck about the dude. Never give a fuck about the dude. He can die for all I care.
Fuck
okay. Now, if you want to talk about things living rent-free, Trump still cannot get over the fact that he lost, okay? He now has established a office of the former president.
Oh.
Where he pretends to do presidential things. It is in Florida near Mar-a-Lago, where he goes there, he has assistants, and he signs executive orders. I'm not kidding.
He's playing pretend. Oh, he's coping so hard he has to play pretend.
He is playing pretend. Office of the former president in Mar-a-Lago. Look it up.
I am.
No, I was telling the audience. Not
you. Yeah, sorry. Well, I'm listening to now. I'm the audience. Look at me. Look at me. I'm the audience now.
But yeah.
Holy shit.
Losing the presidency is living rent-free in Trump's head in 2021.
It broke him. I mean, Trump was already kind of a broken man. He's a very, very sad individual. I can, it's in the way he dances too. When you can only do this, your life is really not going well. But that is the funniest. That brings joy. Marie Kondo, that sparks joy. That's all I'm going to say.
That sparks joy.
This sparks joy.
2021. Can't stop winning.
Can't stop winning.
Can't stop winning. All right, it's been great.
It has been a good little hour of some nonsense. I learned about cars today. I'm really happy. Thank you for joining us on the Don't Panic podcast. You can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Patreon.
Anywhere that podcasts are hosted.
Anywhere that podcasts are hosted.
Podcasts. We're on what's it called? Squeezer, I think it's called.
Squeezer.
Yeah.
Please tell me that's run by Squeezy Jibs. I want Squeezy Jibs on our podcast at least once.
Let's do it. Let's have it. Let's make it happen. But anyway, yeah, patreon.com/Don't Panic Podcast. Please help us keep this together. We are back using Zencaster.
Yeah.
We're going to host, I think we'll do a monthly live stream is what we'll do.
Yeah, we should. That'd be good.
Per month, live stream, and we'll have a guest once per month. How about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good. All right,
folks.
Check us out. Episode will be out in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
And good luck.